welcome to my draft analysis for the GBU. Please go check out all the other coaches. Their links will be down in the description below. Subscribe if you're new, like the video, all that. With that being said, I don't want to drag the intro on very long. So just to get some things out of the way, basically my goal for this draft was to cover all my bases, and I will kind of explain that as I go along. So to start, I wanted to have my fire, water, grass core, and I wanted to start off with Palafin. I thought that was the best Pokemon that I can get at the 9th spot in the draft, so I was kind of like right in the middle. So I think like 16 Pokemon would pass like on the way, like, so I was 9th pick, and then everyone else has to pick again twice, and I think there was like 8 people, so I think there was like 16 Pokemon that would go back. So what I decided to get first was Palafin. This is what came to me, and this is the start of my momentum core as well. It does have that weird ability, 0 to hero, I think it's called. This thing does not, that ability does not stop it from being broken. You always have to watch out for the bulk up variant. It has Jet Punch for priority. It has the staying power with Drain Punch. It has coverage with Ice Punch. And on the special side, you have a usable Ice Beam coverage and a usable Grass Knot coverage. And it's really, really bulky. It has a good speed tier, base 100, and really, really strong, base 160 attack. So I think that with the ability to boost your attack stat and have priority, very, very good. So we're gonna move on, and I decided to pair Palafin immediately with Lando T because it gives me an electric immunity. So you guys can see what I did there. This also is a ground immunity, so that's also one of those bases that you like to cover. You like to have a ground type to have an electric immunity, and then you want to have a flying type for a ground immunity. So Lando T covers both of those. It has Intimidate, so that's really good to help with its defensive capabilities. It's also the second Pokemon part of the momentum core. It has Stealth Rock, so this gives me a hazard setter. You have to respect the offense and defense capabilities of this Pokemon. It's really, really good. It can break, it can sweep. On the physical side, on the special side, it has access to Calm Mind, the Swords Dance. Does it have Nasty Plot? It might have Nasty Plot. It also has Agility, so you gotta watch the Double Dance, and then you also have to watch out for this being a Stall Breaker because it has Taunt. So you can't just be super fat and think that you're gonna stall me out, because we can click Taunt and put an end to all of that. So the next Pokemon we have is Ogre Pawn Fire, the Heart Flame. So this Pokemon gives me a grass and fire to complete my fire, water, grass core all in one with just 2 Pokemon. I have Palafin as the water and Ogre Pawn as the grass and fire. So this is the 3rd Pokemon for my momentum core. It has really good stabs combined that help me eliminate grass types. It helps me eliminate water types that get in the way of Palafin's sweeping. This Pokemon gets knockoff. They did Lando T dirty, GameFreak, and they took away knockoff. So Ogre Pawn is here to pick up the slack and of course help the team out, support it with knockoff. So this thing also gets spikes. It has Encore, and with Mold Breaker it can bypass things like Magic Bounce. It can bypass Sturdy, Multiscale, Flash Fire, Heat Proof, Sap Sipper. We're also a fire type that does not have to, we're a physical attacker that does not have to worry about being burned because we are a fire type. And we are a fire type that does not have to worry about being leech seeded because we're also a grass type. So we also don't fear knockoff as much because we are forced to hold that mask, and I don't think that it can be knocked off. Really good speed tier at base 110, really strong physical attack stat 120, and just one of those things you have to watch out for hazards. So we want to make sure that we pair that up and get some removal in our next few picks. So we decided to pick up the Bong, Galar Wheezing. Shout out to cannabis being legalized for adults in many states around the country. So yeah, shout out to that. This is my fairy type. It's going to be the start of my Fairy Steel Dragon core. It has 3 really good abilities, with the the neutralizing gas, the levitate, and Misty Surge. Misty Surge is going to be great in supporting Palafin because you don't have to worry about status. It's free of burns, paras, toxics. It can absorb T-spikes. It can be, or, you know, you don't have to, you know, absorb T-spikes because you could be levitate and then, you know, just have that ground immunity. This is, again, like I said, my defogger. This thing is also great to support things with Will-O-Wisp, or it can even Memento to allow one of my 3 previous Pokemon to sweep. So really, really cool. In order to further support my team, I decided to get Klefki. Klefki is my Steel type in my Fairy Steel Dragon Core. Second Fairy, it's a really good glue Pokemon that can be annoying for my opponent to prep for. With Prankster, this thing can slow everything down. It's really good, reliable spike setter, and it can even hit something hard with Steel Beam. Base 140, you know, move plus stab is really, really nice. It's a really nice way to KO myself and get a free switch in with one of my other Pokemon, maybe underneath screens. So you guys can kind of see the synergy there with what I have. And to complete my Fairy Steel Dragon Core, we have Hydragon. This is another Pokemon in my Momentum Core. It is a Dark type, so obviously we had Klefki as my Steel type to give me a Poison immunity with, you know, obviously being Steel. Then we have Hydragon being a Dark type to give me a Psychic immunity, and it gives me a second ground immunity with Levitate, so that's going to help further support Klefki and Weezing if it decides to not be Levitate that time, you know, that in that particular week. I felt really very, very comfortable picking Hydragon as a Dragon type and a Dark type, even though it is 4 times weak to Fairy type moves, because we do have multiple resistances to both of those weaknesses, being Fairy and Fighting. Obviously with Lando being the Flying type that resists the Fighting type moves, and then we have Weezing as well, also resisting Fighting and other dragons, you know, Fighting, Dragon, and Fairy. So that's a really good pairing, Weezing and Hydragon, just noticed that. And Klefki is phenomenal as well, you know. So really, really good synergy there, I think. And this is another one of those sleeper glue Pokemon because it can kind of do everything. You can lead and have Stealth Rocks. It can deal out massive damage. It can be defensive. This thing can settle with Nasty Plot. I think it has Dragon Dance. Don't think it's that relevant. But really happy to use this Pokemon a second time, and should be lit, you know? So at this point, I was kind of worried about my speed tiers, so I decided to get Reggie Alolan. I think it's literally the fastest Pokemon available, so don't quote me on it, but I think. And this is another one of my Pokemon that is part of my Momentum Core. This thing is fast, so it's going to shape how some of my opponents prep for it with their faster mons, like that don't, you know, hit this. They're going to maybe bring a Scarf Pokemon that they don't necessarily want to Scarf because maybe they don't want to lose to, like, Regieleki at the end, you know, just being able to outspeed things. And just if they're not a ground type, they're just, you know, what switches into that, you know, at the end, you know, if everything's chipped down. So I think that it's going to make people prep very interestingly for me. And it's got some other good traits about it. I know that it does not have the ability to Terrastalize. This is not my Terra Pokemon. They banned this thing from being able to Terra. So, you know, that part's a little but it does give me a Rapid Spinner. It gives me some extreme speed priority. It does lack coverage. And so I do have to hopefully get my predictions right. You know, it does kind of force in some ground types. So maybe I can get a good switch in with my Ogre Pawn or my Palafin. I just hope that I can get the predictions right, you know. So pull the correct doubles when I need to, or stay in and get the kill when the timing is right. And the next Pokemon I wanted to get was Dunsparce because I really did want a Ghost immunity. I feel like Ghost types are pretty strong these days. This thing doesn't have U-turn, so it's not part of that core, but it can get a slow baton pass off to help keep momentum. This thing is thick. It's going to help me soak up hits, and I should be able to roost and paralyze things with either Glare or Body Slam 60% of the time with Serene Grace. Paraflinch is always an option, and I'm not above it or below it, whatever the expression is. We have Minshao, another Pokemon that got buffed this gen with Ice Spinner. Also, another Pokemon added to the list of my Momentum Core. And this is probably one of the better U-Turn members on my team because it has access to Regenerator. And I don't have to be as concerned with hazards, you know, always wearing me down because I'll always come back in with a little bit more. Really good speed tier, really strong offensively, has Reckless as an option. Should be fun, really excited. Is this thing a ferret? You guys let me know. I'm not really sure exactly what animal this is, but I want to be able to explain it, but I'm not really sure, so you let me know. So one thing that I thought my team was lacking and was maybe some special attackers other than, you know, Hydragon. You know, I do feel like I kind of balanced it out, but Hoopa does give me a normal immunity, and I feel like Hoopa kind of fit that role, and it also gives me a fighting immunity being a ghost type. And this is one of my Terra captains. I chose Terra Ghost and Fairy because it gives me the option to remove my Ghost and Dark weakness and have strong stab coverage. I think this thing can break teams very easily with the support of paras and screens. I'm excited to put this thing to work. You know, shout out to Envy. And the last Pokemon on my team is Aryados. Aryados, I grabbed this with my last point, and I was able to make it my Terra captain as well, so my second Terra captain. And this thing, you know, has I chose Dark and Ghost as my Terra types. This is going to give me a better typing than Bug and Poison, as well being able to boost my priority moves in Shadow Sneak and Sucker Punch. Also gets access to Sticky Web, so, you know, one of those things that my team did kind of struggle with was the speed tiers, so, you know, now I have access to every single hazard under the sun, and I'll be able to maybe hazard stack my opponent and maybe, you know, use that to my advantage. So I guess just final thoughts on my team. I feel like it's a little bit more offensive than it is defense. I kind of think that I have to rely on screens to supplement my lack of very obvious defensive Pokemon on my team, especially on the especially defensive side. So the one thing that I do struggle the most with is team building, decision making. So that makes team building take so much longer for me. And I think if that's like the one thing that I can improve on this season, it's something that you guys probably won't even notice because it's like a behind the scenes thing. That'll be my goal. Just make teams faster and better. I really want to make it to playoffs, man. I feel like my team is so fun. I mean, I know it's probably not the best, but it feels like a fun team. So hopefully you guys enjoyed watching. Thank you so much. Make sure you guys check out all the coaches again. Subscribe to me if you're new. Hit that like button, and I will see you in the battle next week. So peace.